Right. It's time for me to get off the stage and hand over to what Steve mentioned might be a new level of nerdery. So please welcome Steve back and Rich Mayer.
Hey, folks.
Hello.
Just want to address something. First off, I'm just looking for Jennifer Ellis. There she is. Hey, there's Jennifer and Nicola. This is me going off script, which is going to cause Rich
immediately
to have, a terror episode right now. But yeah, you've been on the Twitter. I refuse to call it X. It'll always be Twitter to me. With an interesting comment that you were asking if Mark and I were going to come on dressed as Mario and Luigi. At the start of the day. And it's funny you say that because 4 or 5 weeks ago, Rich and I have got 4 different sessions where we're going to talk about stuff. I actually pitched an idea where each time we would come on, and the first one would have been Mario and Luigi. So there is a parallel universe. My creativity was silenced, unfortunately. So you're all just going to have to imagine that. So yeah, that's a little moan off my chest. Rich?
Glad you got it off your test, mate. Yeah, so we're going to be popping in and out throughout the day to do little segments about what we basically just try and tee up the next session, using some of the data that we've had before. As you can say, yeah, thanks for my special skill there of being, well, it's pretty accurate. I'm a massive nerd, particularly when it comes to games. So I've been absolutely in love with all the theming today. But first off, we're going to talk a little bit about what our data tells us. So level 1, we're getting to know the landscape that we're going to work with. And if we're thinking, obviously, around financial advisor tech, the landscape is pretty broad and pretty diverse. So this, you may recognize, is from our Fragmented World study that we did last year. But it's all the options that advisors have now to construct their technology. It's a pretty complex landscape and a rich kind of tapestry of various combinations that we can make in there. It also means it's quite an overwhelming a number of choices to make, and any number of these combinations could work for you, and indeed do work for different firms out there at the moment. But if we're thinking there's probably, around 20-odd platforms there, 10 practice management systems. These are big fundamental decisions that you need to make when you're starting your advice firm, and when you start thinking about how you might change them in the future. The job of people in the room that are trying to help you with these products is to get that message across, but it's pretty easy to understand how you might get pretty overwhelmed with those decisions.
And that's only a snapshot.
Yeah.
Of the choice that's out there. And we've got some market share stats on the next slide. So this is all data that's taken from our annual Omnibus State of the Advisor Nation study, which I'm sure loads of you are familiar with. And so we've got 4 main componentry there. It's not exclusive to the full suite of software that you have at your disposal, but we've got the practice management, investment research, risk profiling, and cash flow modeling. And now one of my favorite games in the world is live math. So let's do some probability off the top of my head. I didn't prepare this, so this is where I'm about to look extremely stupid. So if we look at the most popular systems, so Intelligent Office has got around about 50% market share. The FE Fund Info, so the investment research from FE, around about 3/4. So that's about 37.5% chance that you're running both of them. The most popular risk profiling software is EV by a fraction there, so that's 1 in 4 using that. So that gets you down to about 8 or 9%. And then CashCalc, the most popular cash flow modeling software, about 44% market share there. So the probability of you as a firm having each one of those is around about 5 or 6%. And then when you load on things like primary platform choice, secondary platform choice, investment proposition construction, you soon come to the conclusion that there's actually, unless you're heavily vertically integrated, there's actually virtually no chance of 2 firms looking the same, right? And that has huge implications if you're on the manufacturing side, if you're in the regulator, and you're trying to make sense of all of this, trying to develop coherent things. And that has huge implications, and we're going to talk about that in the next section. One of our other favourite things to do is to give the advice profession thought experiments. I hinted at it earlier on in the day. Rich.
Yeah, so we asked this for the last few years in State of the Advisor Nation. Thank you very much if you participated, and please carry on doing that. We give them a thought experiment to say if you could switch out one part of your tech stack for another, imagine there are no repercussions in this. You can just literally turn one off and turn the other on. Would you do it? And I think what we find here is that generally people are pretty happy with the stuff that they've got. I think that plays into the wheel that we saw earlier on, that there's just a sheer amount of choice that is out there. There's a possibility of gaps in knowledge of what is truly out there. But for the things that have the most propensity to change, it's the practice management stuff and perhaps client portals and perhaps platforms as well. These things, practice management, I think that's typically picked right at the beginning. As your business evolves, maybe it's hard to keep that up to date, and that's before we get into the new the parts of regulation that drive extra disclosure, extra recording of data, extra justification of all these choices that I'm making.
So those are the stats from our most latest wave of State of the Advisor Nation, but let's find out what you think today. So right, it is time to reach into your pocket, get your smartphone, and get into the voting portal. Rich, next slide.
Right. So, yeah,
Still the last
definitely
chance.
the last chance
Definitely
now.
the last
Definitely
chance
the last
now.
chance. So, we're going to ask you to rate your health. This is all about setting the scene as we do in level 1, and we're learning kind of what the state of play is at the moment. So we're going to ask you to rate how confident you are that your firm is using the right kit.
So are you? You've nailed it. Absolutely nailed it, and we get the most out of it. B, we're happy. We could get a bit more out of it. C, it needs changing, but I have no idea how. D, it's people actually. It's the people in my firm that's the issue, not the tech. Or E, it's the bane of my life. Give you a minute or so to vote, and we will see how the votes come in. Rich, while we're doing that, we're talking a lot about games today, and you are like easily the biggest nerd. No offense, I know you like it. What's your jam? What do you do?
Well, at the minute, I am layering nerdery upon nerdery upon nerdery in all of my free time. So I'm reading The Wheel of Time, which is like a 15 book fantasy novel, and I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3, which is...
Baldur's Gate, what's that?
It's a Dungeons and Dragons game. So yeah.
Wow, right. So, this isn't that interesting. Yeah, moving on. I've got nothing to say about Baldur's Gate. Those were words in an order, and I've got nothing to say about it. Right. That's interesting. So doesn't that set us up nicely for the conceit of the day? This is all about saving our progress, finding out how we can get the most of what we do already. And 60% of you, the result is gone, but I can remember it through my telepathic ability, that around about 60% of you saying, you're mainly happy with it, but you could get more out of it. So let's explore that.
Shall I see whether it's just going to come up again? No,
Nah,
okay, yeah.
Moving on.
Good. And the other part we'll do when we generally start a game is you'll find out a bit more about your quest and the ultimate aim of why you're playing the game, what you're trying to resolve. So in this, we're thinking about tech. So we're going to get you to name your nemesis, and hopefully throughout the day you'll find different parts of contributions and things that we'll learn that will help you tackle that nemesis. So where do we, if any, is the weakest point in your advice tech?
I think our nemesis might be Space Invader copyright infringement.
Absolutely.
So let's move on.
He's
Name
still
your
there.
nemesis. Yeah, moving on. A, primary platform. B, other platforms. C, practice management system. D, cash flow modeling. 2, E, risk profiling tool. Cast your votes now, players, and you at home. I'm looking at you. Cast your votes. Rich, we talked about Spectrum, and Mark talked about that thing that was held together by string, by
Yeah.
the tone. What's your earliest?
My earliest one was a Nintendo Entertainment System, circa 1992.
Did you have Duck Hunt?
I did, yes. I played it incessantly all the time, and my mum basically said, you know, if you're not careful, in 30 odd years' time, you might be working at a financial consultancy firm in Scotland. But this is a warning to all your children out there.
Name your nemesis. I'm going to use my telepathic powers. Oh, God, you spoiled it. Spoiled it. Yeah, so just a shade under 50% saying practice management software, clearly legacy, so other platforms in your business are the biggest issue. Primary platform, interesting. So it's teetering at about 1 in 6, just under 1 in 6 people saying that, and reflecting our research, which is always nice. Cash flow and risk profiling tool, people largely setting that aside in favor of others.